The light came first, gray morning pushing through motel curtains that didn't quite close, then the headache, then the smell of cheap coffee and cheaper sheets, and then, when Bishop's eyes finally focused, the woman sitting in the chair by the window, watching him with eyes that held no fear and no forgiveness. He knew those eyes, had seen them 3 years ago across a parking lot when he'd put his hand on her throat and told her if she published that story, they'd find her camera at the bottom of the lake and her with it. She'd published it anyway, cost him 6 months and nearly cost him the club. And now she was here, in his motel room, at dawn, with a cup of coffee in her hands and something in her expression that looked almost like pity. Wait, before the next ride begins. If this story already hit you right in the chest, tell us where you're watching from. To ride with the Brotherhood through the next promise, loss, or redemption, subscribe and join the club. Engines up, back to the road. Bishop sat up too fast. The room spun. His mouth tasted like whiskey and regret. He was still wearing his jeans, but his shirt was gone. His cut draped over the back of the other chair. The Reaper's Creed patch stared at him like an accusation. "Easy," the woman said. Her voice was steady. Not warm, not cold, just factual, like she was narrating something she'd already written in her head. "You're concussed. Probably. You took a pretty good hit last night." Bishop's hand went to his head, found a knot above his left temple, tender and swollen. Memory came in fragments. The bar, the argument, someone throwing the first punch, him throwing the last one. And then, nothing. A blank space where the rest of the night should have been. "What are you doing here?" His voice came out rough. 3 years and he still remembered her name, Harper Quinn.
The reporter who'd embedded herself with the club for 6 weeks won their trust, then published a piece that made them look like criminals instead of brothers. She'd been right about some of it. That was what made it unforgivable. "Saving your life, apparently," Harper said. She took a sip of coffee, never breaking eye contact. "You're welcome." Bishop swung his legs off the bed, stood. The room tilted, but he forced it steady through sheer will. He was 6'3" and 220, all of it earned through years of riding and fighting and refusing to back down. She was maybe 5'6", 130 pounds, wearing jeans and a gray sweater that looked like it cost more than his bike payment. The power dynamic should have been obvious, but somehow in this moment, she was the one in control. "Saving my life," Bishop repeated. "From what?" "From yourself, mostly, and from the 3 guys in the parking lot who were planning to finish what they started inside." Harper set down the coffee cup, stood, walked to the window and pulled the curtain back just enough to show the parking lot below. "See the blue pickup? They've been sitting there for 2 hours, waiting to see if you come out." Bishop looked, saw the truck, saw 3 shapes inside, visible in the growing light. Recognized the make and model, a Ford F-250, the kind of thing ranch hands and oil workers drove, not bikers, which meant this wasn't club business, which meant it was personal, which made it worse. "Who are they?" Bishop asked. "The Brewer brothers and their cousin, Jack, Tommy, and Ray. You broke Jack's nose last night, broke Tommy's hand. Ray wasn't there, but he's here now, and he's got a baseball bat in the bed of that truck." Bishop's memory supplied another fragment, the bar, some drunk cowboy running his mouth about bikers, about patches, about how real men worked for a living instead of playing dress-up on motorcycles. Bishop had ignored it, had been trying to ignore it. But then the cowboy, Jack Brewer, apparently, had knocked over Diesel's beer, and when Diesel stood up, Jack had thrown the first punch. After that, it was just momentum, just bodies and fists and the old familiar rhythm of violence that Bishop had been trying to walk away from for the past year. "How did I get here?" Bishop asked. "I drove you. You were on the ground behind the bar, bleeding. They'd left you there and gone inside to celebrate. I was..." She paused, seemed to choose her words carefully. "I was in the area, saw the whole thing, helped you to my car, brought you here, bandaged your head, stayed to make sure you didn't die in your sleep." Bishop stared at her. None of this made sense. The last time they'd been in the same room, he'd made it very clear what would happen if they ever crossed paths again, and she'd made it very clear she didn't scare easy. But this wasn't fear, and it wasn't bravado. This was something else entirely. "Why?" Bishop asked. Harper met his eyes, and in that moment, Bishop saw something he'd never noticed 3 years ago. Exhaustion. The kind that came from carrying weight too long. The kind he recognized because he saw it in the mirror every morning. "Because you were right," Harper said quietly. 3 years ago. "You were right about some of it. Not the threat, not the violence, but about what I did."
I used you. All of you. I came in with a narrative already written, and I just filled in the blanks with whatever fit. I didn't see you as people. I saw you as a story, and that story ruined lives. I know that now. Bishop felt something shift in his chest, something hard and angry that had been lodged there for 3 years. "You're apologizing," he said. It wasn't a question. "I'm explaining," Harper corrected. "I don't know if I can apologize for something I thought was right at the time, but I can tell you I understand now that I was wrong."
And I can tell you that I've spent the last 3 years trying to figure out how to fix it. You can't fix it. Marcus is dead. Hawk lost his parole. The club lost half its members and all of its reputation. You can't write that away. I know. Harper's voice was barely above a whisper. I know I can't, but I can try to tell the truth this time. The real truth, not the version that sells papers or wins awards, the version that shows who you actually are. Bishop laughed. No humor in it, just bitterness and the familiar taste of betrayal. And who am I, Harper, according to you? She looked at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. You're the man who rode 8 hours through a snowstorm to get to Diesel's daughter's funeral when everyone else said the roads were too dangerous. You're the man who rebuilt Mrs. Chen's fence after those kids knocked it down and didn't take payment because she's on a fixed income. You're the man who threatened me 3 years ago and meant it, but who's been trying to go straight ever since because you're tired of being what everyone expects you to be instead of who you actually are. Bishop felt the words land like punches, each one true, each one something she shouldn't know. How do you know all that? Because I've been following you, Harper said. Not physically, not like a stalker, but I've been watching, listening, asking questions, trying to understand what I missed the first time. And what I found was, she paused, swallowed hard. What I found was a man trying to be better in a world that won't let him, a man trapped between the person he was and the person he wants to be. And I realized that's not just your story, that's everyone's story in the club. That's the story I should have told. Bishop walked to the window, looked out at the blue pickup, at the 3 men waiting to hurt him. At the parking lot of a motel, where he'd ended up because he couldn't control his temper and couldn't walk away from a fight, even when he knew he should. Why are you really here, Harper? I told you. I saw you. No. Why are you in this town? Why were you at that bar last night? Why do you even care what happens to me? Harper was quiet for a long time. When Bishop turned to look at her, she was staring at her hands. Because I'm writing a book, she said finally, about the club, about the life, about what I got wrong and what I'm trying to get right. And because, she looked up, met his eyes. Because 3 years ago, I almost got you killed. And last night I had a chance to make sure that didn't happen, so I took it. A book. A book, she confirmed, an honest one. One that shows the whole picture, the good and the bad, and all the complicated gray areas in between. But I need your help. I need you to let me back in. I need the club to trust me enough to tell me the truth. Bishop laughed again. This time there was something almost like admiration in it. You've got guts, I'll give you that. Coming to me, asking me to help you profit off our lives again? I'm not profiting. The advance is going to Marcus's wife, every penny. And any royalties will go to a fund for club members who need legal help or medical bills. This isn't about money. This is about setting the record straight. Bishop studied her, looking for the lie, the angle, the thing that would prove she was still the same ambitious reporter who'd burned them before. But all he saw was exhaustion and determination, and something that looked uncomfortably like integrity. Even if I believed you, Bishop said slowly, even if I thought you were serious about this, the club would never go for it. Hawk would shoot you before he talked to you. Diesel would help him hide the body. You're radioactive to them, to all of us. I know. That's why I'm starting with you. You're the captain. If you vouch for me, they'll listen. They might not trust me, but they'll listen. And why would I vouch for you? Harper picked up her coffee cup, drained the last of it, set it down carefully on the windowsill. Because you're tired, she said. Because you've been carrying the weight of being the villain for 3 years, and you're ready to show people who you really are. because those men in that parking lot are going to come after you with a bat, and you're going to have to choose between fighting back and running away, and either choice is going to cost you something you can't afford to lose. And because somewhere deep down, you know that the only way out of this life is to tell the truth about it, to own it, all of it, the mistakes and the glory, and the roads you wish you'd never taken. Bishop closed his eyes, felt the truth of her words settle into his bones. He was tired, bone deep, soul tired, tired of fighting, tired of being feared, tired of looking at his reflection and seeing a man he didn't particularly like. When he opened his eyes, Harper was still watching him. "If I do this," Bishop said carefully, "if I agree to help you with this book, I need your word on something." "What?" "You don't publish anything I don't approve. Not a word, not a photo. Nothing goes in that book without my sign-off. And if I tell you we're done, we're done. No arguments, no pleading. You walk away and you never contact me or the club again." Harper considered this. Bishop could see her mind working, weighing the cost of giving up editorial control against the value of access. "Deal," she said finally, "but I need the same from you. If I find out you're lying to me, spinning stories to make yourself look better, the deal's off, and I publish what I have with or without your approval." "Fair enough." They shook hands. Her grip was firm, her palm warm. For just a second, Bishop felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope.
The possibility that maybe, just maybe, this could lead somewhere good. Then there was a knock at the door. Both of them froze. Bishop looked at Harper. Harper looked at the door. "You expecting someone?" Harper whispered. "No." Another knock, harder this time, then a voice. "We know you're in there, biker. Come on out and let's finish this like men." Jack Brewer, and from the sound of it, he'd brought his brothers. Bishop's jaw clenched. Every instinct screamed at him to open that door and give them the fight they wanted. 3 against 1, even odds considering the shape they were probably in after last night. He could take them, drop them all in under a minute if he fought dirty enough. But then what? Then he was right back where he started. Right back in the cycle of violence and reputation and becoming the man everyone expected instead of the man he wanted to be. Harper was watching him, reading him like a page she'd written herself. "There's a back exit," she said quietly. "We can leave. Drive away. Let them stand out there and knock until they get bored. I can't run from every fight." "No. But you can choose which fights matter. This one doesn't. This is just ego. 3 drunk cowboys who want to feel tough. You don't owe them anything." The knock came again, harder, meaner, the sound of fists that wanted to become fists. Bishop looked at his cut, at the patch that had defined him for 15 years. Captain, leader, the man who never backed down, the man who protected the club's honor no matter the cost. And then he looked at Harper, at the woman who'd nearly destroyed him and was now offering him a chance of redemption. He grabbed his cut, put it on, grabbed his shirt from the floor and pulled it over his head. Then he walked to the back door, not the front. "Come on," he said to Harper. "Let's go." They slipped out through the back exit, down a metal staircase that led to the rear parking lot.
Harper's car was a silver Honda Accord, sensible and invisible. They climbed in. She started the engine, pulled out onto the access road that ran behind the motel. As they drove past the front parking lot, Bishop saw the 3 men still standing at his door, saw the baseball bat in Ray's hands, saw the anger and the violence and the future he was choosing to leave behind. "Where are we going?" Harper asked. "The clubhouse," Bishop said. "If we're doing this, we're doing it right, and that means talking to Hawk." Harper's hands tightened on the wheel. "He's going to kill me." "Probably, but he'll hear you out first. That's more than you deserve, but it's what I'm offering." They drove in silence for 20 minutes. The sun was fully up now, burning off the morning haze and painting the desert in shades of gold and rust. Bishop watched the landscape roll past and thought about choices, about roads taken and roads avoided, about the difference between running away and walking towards something better. "Can I ask you something?" Harper said finally. "Depends on the question. Why did you threaten me 3 years ago? I know you were angry. I know I betrayed your trust, but you meant it.
I could see it in your eyes. You would have hurt me if I didn't back down. So why didn't you, when I published anyway?" Bishop was quiet for a long time. The truth was complicated and simple at the same time. "Because I'm not that man," he said finally. "I wanted to be. In that moment, I wanted to be the kind of man who could hurt someone for hurting me. But I'm not. Never have been. The club thinks I am. Hell, I think I am sometimes. But when it comes down to it, when I'm standing in front of someone weaker than me, someone vulnerable, I can't do it. It's like there's a line inside me I can't cross, even when I want to." "That's not weakness," Harper said quietly. "That's humanity. In this life, they're the same thing." They pulled up to the clubhouse 40 minutes later.
It was a low building on the outskirts of town, surrounded by bikes and chain-link fence, and the kind of reputation that kept most people from getting too close. Bishop saw Diesel's Harley parked out front, saw Hawk's Fat Boy, saw 3 prospects he didn't recognize sitting on the porch, smoking and watching the road with eyes that had already seen too much. "Stay in the car," Bishop said. "Let me talk to them first." "Bishop." "Stay in the car, Harper. Please. If you walk in there without warning, someone's going to do something stupid. Let me handle this." She nodded. Bishop climbed out. The prospects stood up when they saw him, hands instinctively going to their belts. They relaxed when they recognized him. "Captain," one of them said. "Young kid, maybe 20, trying hard to look tough. Didn't expect you this early." "Hawk inside?" "Yeah, Diesel too. They're in the chapel." Bishop walked past them, through the front door, into the main room of the clubhouse. It smelled like oil and beer and the accumulated weight of years. Photos on the walls, brothers past and present, bikes, runs, memories frozen in time. Bishop had been in these photos once, smiling and young and certain the road would last forever. He walked to the back room, the chapel, where the club made its decisions and settled its debts and spoke the truths they couldn't say anywhere else. He knocked once, entered without waiting for permission. Hawk looked up from the head of the table. 60 years old and hard as iron, with a white beard and eyes that had seen everything worth seeing, and most of it wasn't good. Next to him sat Diesel, younger by a decade but meaner by a mile. They both stared at Bishop. "What happened to your head?" Hawk asked. "Bar fight. 3 cowboys. I handled it." "You look like shit." "Yeah, well," Bishop pulled out a chair, sat down without being invited. "I need to talk to you, both of you, about something important." Diesel leaned back, crossed his arms. "This about last night? Already heard about it. Jack Brewer and his crew. They're going to come after you. They already tried. I walked away." Hawk raised an eyebrow. "You walked away from a fight?" "I walked away from a stupid fight. There's a difference." "Since when?" Bishop took a breath. Let it out slow. "Since I realized I'm tired of being angry all the time. Since I realized the club deserves better than a captain who can't control his temper. Since I realized that if I don't change something, I'm going to end up dead or in prison or exactly where I am now when I'm 60, still fighting the same fights and losing the same ground." Hawk and Diesel exchanged a look. Something passed between them that Bishop couldn't read. "This is about the reporter," Hawk said. Not a question. Bishop should have been surprised. Wasn't. Hawk knew everything. Always had. "Yeah," Bishop admitted. "This is about the reporter. She's here, isn't she? Outside. In that silver Honda. She is." Diesel stood up fast. His chair scraped against concrete. "Are you out of your goddamn mind? She nearly destroyed us. Marcus is dead because of her story, because the attention brought heat we couldn't handle. And you brought her here?" "Marcus is dead because Marcus couldn't handle the pressure," Bishop said quietly. "Not because of Harper. We can blame her all we want, but the truth is Marcus had demons she didn't create. She just exposed them. That's not how we see it," Hawk said. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "That's not how the club sees it. You bring her in here? You're asking us to forgive something unforgivable. I'm not asking you to forgive her.
I'm asking you to hear her out. She's writing a book. About the club. About the life. She wants to tell the truth this time. The real truth. And she's putting the money toward Marcus's wife and the club. Diesel laughed. No humor in it. And you believe her? After what she did? I don't know yet. Bishop said honestly.
But I think she means it, and I think we owe it to ourselves to at least listen. Because the story she told 3 years ago is the only story people know. And if we don't give her the chance to tell a different one, that's the story that's going to define us forever. Hawk was quiet, thinking. Bishop could see the calculations happening behind those old eyes. Risk versus reward, pride versus pragmatism, the weight of protecting the club against the possibility of redemption. Finally, Hawk spoke. Bring her in, but she doesn't go anywhere without an escort. She doesn't talk to anyone without our permission, and the second I think she's playing us, she's gone, permanently. We clear? Crystal. Bishop stood, walked back through the clubhouse, out to the parking lot. Harper was still in the car, sitting rigid with her hands on the wheel like she was ready to drive away at any second. He opened the passenger door, leaned in. Come on, he said. They'll see you, but you do exactly what I say. Don't argue, don't explain, don't try to win them over with words. Just be honest. That's all you've got. Harper nodded, climbed out, followed Bishop back inside, through the main room where conversation stopped and eyes turned to track her movement, into the chapel where Hawk and Diesel waited. The silence was crushing. Harper stood just inside the doorway, hands clasped in front of her like a penitent. Bishop had never seen her look uncertain before. It was strange, almost unsettling. Hawk stared at her, long enough that the air started to feel thin. You've got 5 minutes, Hawk said finally. Talk. Harper took a breath, and then she did exactly what Bishop had told her to do. She was honest. 3 years ago, I came to your club with a story already written in my head. I told myself I was being objective, but I wasn't. I was looking for confirmation, for proof that bikers were dangerous criminals living outside the law.
And when I found behavior that fit that narrative, I highlighted it. And when I found behavior that didn't fit, I ignored it. I wrote a story that won me an award and nearly destroyed your lives. Marcus's death is on me. The legal trouble is on me. The loss of members and reputation is on me. I can't undo that. I can't bring Marcus back or erase the damage. But I can try to tell the truth now, the whole truth, about who you are and why you choose this life and what it costs you. I'm writing a book. The advance and all royalties go to Marcus's family and the club legal fund. I'm not here for money or fame. I'm here because I owe you the truth, and I'm asking for the chance to tell it. She stopped. The silence rushed back in. Diesel's jaw was clenched so tight Bishop could hear his teeth grinding, but Hawk's expression was unreadable. Why should we believe you? Hawk asked. Because I'm giving you editorial control, Harper said. Nothing goes in the book you don't approve. Nothing. I'm asking you to trust me, but I'm also giving you the power to stop me if I break that trust. Diesel shook his head. This is bullshit. She's playing us again. Maybe, Hawk said, but maybe not. Marcus's wife could use the money. God knows she's been struggling. And if there's even a chance this book could change how people see us, show us as something other than outlaws and criminals. He trailed off, looked at Bishop. What do you think? I think we take the chance, Bishop said. I think we're so used to being the villains in everyone else's story that we've forgotten we get to write our own. This is a chance to do that, with someone who knows how to reach people we could never reach ourselves. Hawk was quiet for another long moment. Then he stood, walked around the table until he was standing directly in front of Harper. She held her ground, but Bishop could see her fighting the urge to step back. You get 4 months, Hawk said. You can talk to whoever agrees to talk to you.
You can come to runs, to meetings, to whatever we decide you can see. But you follow our rules, you respect our space, and you remember that these are real people with real lives, not characters in your book. You forget that even once, you're done. We clear? Harper's eyes were bright, relief or tears, or both. We're clear, she said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't earned it. Hawk walked past her, out of the chapel. Diesel followed, but not before shooting Bishop a look that promised this conversation wasn't over. Bishop and Harper stood alone in the chapel. The weight of what they'd just agreed to settled between them. 4 months? Harper said. That's not much time. It's what you've got. Use it wisely. I will. I promise. Don't promise. Just do it. They stood there for another moment. Then Harper reached out and touched his arm, just briefly, just enough to make the point. Thank you, she said, for trusting me, for giving me this chance. Don't make me regret it, Bishop said, and he walked out before she could see that he was already wondering if he had. The next 4 months were a blur of roads and conversations, and the slow, careful work of building trust on top of ashes. Harper showed up to everything: runs, parties, funerals. She brought her camera, but asked before taking photos. She brought her notebook, but listened more than she wrote. She asked questions that cut deep, but didn't judge the answers. And slowly, grudgingly, the club started to accept her presence. Not everyone. Diesel still wouldn't speak to her. A few of the older members refused to acknowledge she existed. But enough people opened up that Harper started to see what she'd missed before: the complexity, the humanity, the reasons men chose this life, even when it cost them everything. She saw Hawk visit Marcus's grave every Sunday morning without fail, bringing flowers and sitting for an hour in silence. She saw Diesel teaching his daughter to ride, patient and gentle in ways that contradicted everything she thought she knew about him. She saw the prospects being hazed and welcomed in equal measure, being broken down and built back up into brothers. And she saw Bishop, struggling every day with who he was and who he wanted to be, leading the club with a mixture of strength and doubt that she found more compelling than any certainty. They spent a lot of time together. Too much, probably. But Harper told herself it was necessary. Bishop was her primary source, her guide into this world. The fact that she looked forward to their conversations, that she found herself thinking about him at odd moments, that she sometimes caught herself watching him when she should have been working, that was all just professional interest. Until the night it wasn't. It was the 3rd month. They were at a roadhouse 60 miles outside of town, the club celebrating Diesel's birthday with too much whiskey and too much noise. Harper was sitting at the bar, nursing a beer and watching the scene with the detached observation she'd perfected. Bishop slid onto the stool next to her. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine, just taking notes, mentally." "You ever just experience something without analyzing it?" Harper smiled. "Not really. It's kind of my job to analyze." "Maybe that's your problem." She turned to look at him. He was staring at his own beer, but she could see something working behind his eyes, something he was trying to decide whether to say. "What's on your mind?" Harper asked. Bishop took a long drink, set the bottle down carefully, turned to face her. "I've been thinking about something you said, that first morning in the motel, about me being trapped between who I was and who I want to be. Yeah, you were right. I am trapped, and I've been trying to figure out how to get unstuck, how to move forward instead of just running in place, and I realized something." What? I realized that maybe the problem isn't the club. Maybe the problem is me, the way I see myself, the way I let other people define me. I've been so busy being what everyone expects, the tough captain, the enforcer, the man who never backs down, that I forgot how to just be Bishop, just be the person underneath all the leather and reputation. Harper felt her chest tighten. She knew what it cost him to say this, knew that vulnerability wasn't something he offered easily. "Who is that person?" she asked quietly. Bishop looked at her, really looked at her, and in his eyes she saw something that made her forget about notebooks and objectivity and all the professional distance she was supposed to maintain. "I don't know yet," he said, "but I think I want to find out." The moment hung between them, charged, dangerous. Harper knew she should pull back, should remember why she was here, should maintain the boundaries that kept sources from becoming something more. But she didn't. "I'd like to help you figure that out," she said. Bishop smiled, small, genuine, the first real smile she'd seen from him in 3 months.
Yeah? Yeah. They sat there at the bar, shoulders touching, while the party raged around them. And something shifted. Something neither of them could name, but both of them felt. After that night, things changed. Not obviously. Not in ways the club would notice, but in small moments. Hands brushing when they walked side by side. Conversations that lasted longer than necessary. The way Bishop started showing up wherever Harper was, and the way Harper started timing her arrival to coincide with his. Diesel noticed first, pulled Bishop aside one afternoon when they were working on bikes in the garage. "You sleeping with her?" Diesel asked, blunt as always. "No. But you want to." Bishop didn't answer, didn't need to. "That's a mistake," Diesel said. "She's a reporter. This is work."
You start mixing business with pleasure. Someone gets hurt. Usually both people. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're about to throw away everything for a woman who already burned us once. She's not the same person she was 3 years ago. Neither are you. But that doesn't mean this is smart. Bishop knew Diesel was right. Knew he was walking into danger with eyes open. But he couldn't stop. Something about Harper drew him in. The way she listened. The way she saw him as more than just the patch on his chest. The way she made him want to be better. It all came to a head on a run to the coast. The whole club went. 15 riders, including Harper, in a support van with one of the old ladies. They camped on the beach, built a bonfire, drank and told stories under stars that looked close enough to touch. Harper found Bishop sitting alone by the water, away from the fire and the noise. She sat down next to him without asking permission. "You okay?" she asked. "Just thinking. About how much I'm going to miss this when it's gone." Harper frowned. "What do you mean?" Bishop picked up a handful of sand, let it run through his fingers. "I've been thinking about stepping down, as captain. Maybe even leaving the club. Not because I don't love it, but because I think I've given it everything I have to give. And if I stay, I'm going to turn into Hawk. 60 years old and still fighting the same battles, still carrying the same weight. I don't want that. What do you want?" "I want..." Bishop stopped. Started again. "I want to wake up and not feel like I'm going to war. I want to ride because I love it, not because it's who I'm supposed to be. I want to figure out who Bishop is when he's not Captain Bishop. Does that make sense?" "Perfect sense," Harper said softly. "And for what it's worth, I think you'd be amazing at whatever comes next." "You don't know that." "I do. Because I've watched you for 3 months. I've seen how you lead.
How you care. How you struggle with every decision because you want to do right by your brothers. That kind of integrity doesn't disappear just because you take off the patch." Bishop turned to look at her. The firelight reflected in her eyes, and the ocean whispered behind them, and the moment felt suspended outside of time. "I think I'm falling for you," Bishop said. The words came out before he could stop them. "I know I shouldn't. I know it's complicated and probably stupid, and definitely against every rule I should follow, but I am." Harper's breath caught. For a second, Bishop thought she'd laugh, or worse, pity him, but she did neither. "I'm falling for you too," she said. "And you're right, it's complicated and stupid and against every rule, but I don't care." Bishop reached out, touched her face. She leaned into his hand. "This could ruin everything," he said. "I know. The club will lose their minds. I know. You could lose your credibility. I could lose my position." "I know," Harper said again. "But I'm tired of choosing the safe thing, the smart thing, the thing that makes sense on paper. For once, I want to choose something because it feels right, even if it's a disaster." Bishop pulled her close, kissed her, while the ocean roared and the fire crackled, and the stars watched with indifferent approval. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the club, not the book, not the future or the past, or any of the 1,000 reasons this was a terrible idea. Just this, just them, just the feeling of finally choosing himself,
instead of the role. They kept it quiet for 3 more weeks. Secret meetings, careful distance in public. But eventually, inevitably, Hawk found out. He called Bishop into the chapel, just the two of them. Hawk sat at the head of the table, looking older and more tired than Bishop had ever seen him. "You are sleeping with the reporter," Hawk said. "Yes. You understand what that means?" "I do." Hawk sighed.
Ran a hand through his white beard. "I gave you this position because I trusted your judgment, because I thought you'd put the club first, always, no matter what. I have put the club first. For 15 years, every decision, every sacrifice, every fight. I've given this club everything, and now I'm asking for the chance to choose something for myself. And what you're choosing is a woman who nearly destroyed us. I'm choosing a woman who's trying to make things right, who spent 4 months proving she's not who she was, who's helped us tell our story in a way we never could ourselves. That doesn't change what she did. No, but it changes who she is. People can grow, Hawk. People can learn from mistakes and become better. You taught me that. You gave second chances to half the men in this club. Why can't you give one to her?" Hawk was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was softer, sadder. "Because I'm afraid," he admitted. "I'm afraid that you're going to choose her over us, that you're going to leave. And this club needs you, Bishop. I need you. You're the best captain we've ever had. You're the future. And I'm terrified that I'm watching you walk away." Bishop felt something crack in his chest. He'd never heard Hawk sound vulnerable before, never seen him as anything other than the rock the club was built on. "I'm not walking away from you," Bishop said, "but I might be walking away from being captain, because I can't be who you need me to be and who I need to be at the same time. And I'm finally ready to choose myself. Even if it costs you the club, even then. But I'm hoping it doesn't have to. I'm hoping the club can accept that I'm still a brother even if I'm not wearing the captain's patch, that I can still be family even if I'm not leading." Hawk looked at him for a long time. Then he did something Bishop never expected. He stood up, walked around the table, and pulled Bishop into a hug. "You're a good man," Hawk said. His voice was rough.
Better than most of us, and if this is what you need, I won't stop you. But you talk to the club first. You tell them yourself. You owe them that." "I will." The meeting was set for the following Saturday. Church. Full club. Bishop stood at the head of the table and told them he was stepping down, that he was choosing a different path, that he loved them but loved himself more, and he needed to figure out who he was without the weight of leadership. Some understood, some didn't. Diesel walked out halfway through and didn't speak to him for a month. But enough brothers stood up and shook his hand, told them they respected his choice, that Bishop knew he'd made the right decision. Harper finished the book 2 weeks later, sent it to Bishop and Hawk for approval. They read it together in the chapel, page by page, checking facts and approving stories and making sure the truth they'd shared wasn't twisted into something else. It was good, better than good. It was honest. It showed them as flawed human beings trying to build meaning in a world that didn't always make sense. It showed the cost of the life and the beauty of the brotherhood, and the complexity of choices that had no easy answers. Hawk approved it. Bishop approved it. The book went to print. It came out 6 months after that first morning in the motel room. Harper did a small book tour. Bishop went with her to some of the events, standing in the back while she answered questions and read passages and explained why she'd chosen to tell this story this way. People listened. The book sold well. Not bestseller numbers, but respectable. And more importantly, it changed the conversation. Newspapers started writing about motorcycle clubs with more nuance. TV shows stopped portraying bikers as one-dimensional villains. The narrative shifted. Marcus's wife wrote Harper a letter, thanked her for the money, and for finally showing people who her husband really was.
Said she could sleep better knowing Marcus's memory wasn't just defined by how he died, but by how he lived. That letter made Harper cry. Bishop held her while she wept, understanding that sometimes redemption was painful, even when it was real.
They moved in together a year after the book came out. Small house on the edge of town. Garage for Bishop's bike. Office for Harper's writing. They built a life that was ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. Morning coffee, evening rides. Arguments about dishes and finances, and whose turn it was to call Harper's mother. Bishop still visited the club, still rode with his brothers. But he didn't carry the weight of leadership anymore. And slowly, day by day, he figured out who he was without the patch defining him. He was a man who liked working with his hands, who opened a custom bike shop that catered to riders who wanted quality over flash, who volunteered at a youth center teaching kids motorcycle maintenance as a path to purpose, who loved a woman who'd once threatened his world and now held it together. Harper kept writing, did a piece on the youth center that brought in funding, wrote articles about redemption and second chances, and the complicated humanity of people society had written off. Built a career on truth instead of sensation. They didn't get married, didn't have kids, didn't follow the traditional path. But they built something that felt like home, like peace, like the thing Bishop had been riding toward his whole life, without knowing what he was looking for. 2 years after stepping down, Bishop was in his shop when Diesel walked in. They hadn't spoken much since the split. A few words here and there, awkward silences, the kind of distance that forms when people choose different paths. Diesel stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. Got a minute? Diesel asked. Always. They sat in the office. Bishop offered coffee. Diesel accepted. They drank in silence for a moment. I owe you an apology, Diesel said finally, for how I reacted, for walking out on you, for making you choose between the club and yourself. Bishop shook his head. You don't owe me anything. You were protecting the club. I respect that. Maybe, but I was also being stubborn and proud and afraid that if you left, it meant I was supposed to leave too, that I was supposed to grow up and move on instead of holding on to this life forever. You don't have to leave. The club needs you. Yeah, but maybe I need something else. I've been thinking about it, about what you said, about being trapped between who we were and who we want to be. And I realized I'm tired too, tired of fighting, tired of pretending I don't want more than this. What do you want? Diesel smiled, small and uncertain. I want to be a good father. I want to watch my daughter grow up without worrying she's going to get hurt because of my choices. I want to wake up and not feel like I'm at war. Same things you wanted, same reasons you left. Bishop felt something warm settle in his chest. Understanding, connection, the knowledge that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was admit you needed change. So what are you going to do? I'm stepping down too. Not leaving the club, just stepping back, letting the younger guys take over, focusing on family, on building something that lasts. Good, Bishop said. That's good, brother. They sat there drinking coffee, two men who'd chosen different paths that led to the same place. Peace, purpose, the freedom to define themselves instead of being defined. Harper did a good job with the book, Diesel said. I finally read it. Took me a while, but she got it right. She showed us like we really are. That takes guts. She's got plenty of those. You happy? With her, I mean? Bishop thought about it, about Harper sleeping in his bed. About the way she laughed at his jokes and challenged his assumptions and made him feel seen in ways he'd never experienced before. Yeah, Bishop said. I'm happy. Good. You deserve that. They finished their coffee, shook hands, parted as brothers instead of rivals. And Bishop understood that redemption wasn't a destination, it was a journey. One that required forgiveness and courage and the willingness to let people grow into versions of themselves you never expected. That night, Bishop told Harper about Diesel's visit. They were lying in bed, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. I'm proud of you, Harper said. For what? For building this, for showing people there's another way. Diesel stepping down, that's because of you, because you had the courage to choose yourself first. I had help. Someone showed me it was possible. Who?
Bishop kissed the top of her head. You. That morning in the motel, when you saved my life and asked me to save yours by telling the truth, that changed everything. Harper was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. I thought I was the one asking for redemption, but you gave it to me. You trusted me when you had every reason not to. You let me prove I could be better. You changed my life, Bishop, made me a better person, a better writer, a better human. We changed each other, Bishop said. That's what good people do. They make each other better. They lay there in the dark, two people who'd started as enemies and become something more. Something neither of them had names for, but both of them understood. The road had led them here, through violence and betrayal and the hard work of forgiveness, through choices that cost everything and gave back more, through the kind of journey that proved the destination was never the point. The point was the ride, the motion, the willingness to keep going, even when the path was unclear.
And they were still riding, still moving forward, still choosing each other and themselves, and the complicated, beautiful truth of building a life worth living. Outside, the desert wind whispered through the darkness. Inside, two hearts beat in rhythm. And somewhere between the two, in that space where past and future merged into present, hope lived on. Because that was the secret Bishop had finally learned, the one he'd been riding toward his whole life. You didn't escape your history by running from it. You escaped by owning it, by telling the truth about who you'd been so you could become who you wanted to be, by letting people see your scars and trusting them to understand that wounds could heal without disappearing entirely. Harper had shown him that, had proven that redemption was possible for anyone brave enough to reach for it. And now, every day, they proved it again, together. The engines were quiet, the road was long, and the ride, finally, felt like home.